All righty. That's quick.
I'm very fast when it comes to this.
Okay. We're live streaming.
Excuse
me.
All right.
I'm going to really try to get on Riverside this week too. Try to figure that thing out.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Kevin McGovern, and today is Thursday, December 8th, and it's time for another Prove It Live podcast. Got a good show for you today. We got to talk about some instructional videos that we finally recorded and are uploading them to our YouTube channel. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my very handsome co-host, Mr. Mike Frary. Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Kevin. Welcome to the Prove It Live podcast. I am Mike Frary from the Farm Baseball Performance Institute, along with my aforementioned partner here, Dr. Kevin McGovern of Perfect Motion Sports Therapy.
Isn't this like a third person? Isn't it a three-person show?
Usually, I kind of like it though, because like I see more of myself in my fabulous background, and
I know
the screen's not so
nice,
small.
But we seem to be missing something. Are we missing?
Yeah, we are.
What do our old producers sound like?
Well, I can't be there. I gotta do something for my daughter at school today, though. So he's not.
Well, Ben, I think Mr. Bills is running late. You know, these 20. What is he, a Gen Zer? These Gen Zers just kind of show up whenever.
Yep. Well, it's funny. We could have had, in hindsight, our old producer fill in for nostalgia's sake.
Fill up.
Yep. So
fill in would mean he would fit in. So this is more like fill up. He takes up the whole screen.
The screen,
yeah. But anyway, all right.
He's large. Yep.
So what do we got, Michael?
I feel bad. He can't defend himself.
I know.
So we do have, I'm excited about today's show. We're going to give information today and talk about some of the videos that we're putting out. We decided that, we would typically get good responses when we were giving information, more about what to do and not just what not to do. Mm-hmm. And so we're sort of putting those together and making some instructional videos that, look at this. Speak of the devil. Mm-hmm. Ben Bills has jumped in. So we're going to talk about that. Sort of part of our off-season training series is going to go right in line with the stuff we've been talking about. Hello, Ben. Already. And by the way, this time of year, I don't know if this happens, but for some reason, I don't know if I have like indoor winter allergies or what, but my nasal passage is like a wreck during this time of year every year. I don't know if it's the dry air or what it is, but I do a lot of. So if you hear that, sorry.
Well,
it's not attractive.
Most people are very allergic to mold and don't know it. And mold is literally like not just on the bread you left in the refrigerator. For mold is airborne and it's everywhere, and it's just and people are constantly, especially in the winter.
Highly allergic, yes.
Highly allergic. I am as well.
So I have to kick it off, but by saying, obviously, I grew up a Red Sox fan here in the Boston area, and we are bringing this episode number 89. By the way, Mark Bavaro.
My graduation from high school year, 89.
There you go. The day after the Red Sox failed to deliver on another free agent re-signing, one of their homegrown players, Xander Bogaerts. And this is why it's important. This is why I think it's more than just Boston, because this is infuriating to see just teams do this in general. They just announced a couple of weeks ago that they're raising their ticket prices again, Kevin. Okay. I think they're the highest average ticket.
The Red Sox are raising it again
after finishing in dead last year. Right now, I get it. Okay. Yeah. We're spoiled here in Boston. We have, a bunch of Super Bowls and four World Series. But again, it's the approach. And hey, we're going to do everything for our fan base, and we're charging all this money. I mean, I can tell you right now, you go to Fenway and it's nearly what's the word? it's undoable, for lack of a better word, to take a family to a Red Sox game. Tickets, like I said, are, I think, the highest in Major League Baseball. The food is outrageously priced. God forbid you want to have a beer. I think and it's like an insult, because you pay like whatever it is, $14 for the beer. And what do? They don't pour it from like a draft. No. They take the can and they put it on the counter to show you, hey, dummy, this is what you just paid $14 for here, right here. And they crack it open, they pour it in a cup, right? So it's like, to add insult to injury. But I digress on that. The problem is to announce that you're going to raise ticket prices, already being the highest one, and then go into the winter meetings with, I don't think, any real intention of signing anybody. And that's what bothers me. It's they're because I've become less of a diehard fan over the years, just doing what I do, because we have players that play in other organizations. You start becoming more of a fan of the players and rather than the clubs. But that said, all my friends are big diehard Red Sox fans, and it's just such a great fan base. And they almost insult their intelligence by doing these types of things, where they hey, we're raising ticket price, but don't you worry, winter meetings are coming. We're gonna make a big splash, and they do absolutely zero. And they get up and bite everybody. So I'm here to be one of the first ones to announce on some semblance of a show that this is why they're selling the team, Kevin. They're selling the team. They're clearing the debt, declaring the overhead. They're preparing for a big sale. They bought the Pittsburgh Penguins. I hear they're doing something similar to what they do with the Red Sox with Liverpool. They'll probably sell that, because I hear that they're on the move to purchase an NFL team. So on to bigger and better things in their minds. But if you're a Red Sox fan, I really feel for you. And I would suggest just don't support them. Just don't do it.
Yeah, so they've the Red Sox have made 2 negative splashes this year, this offseason. The other is that they hired, I don't know, his name escapes me, but the hitting guru or whatever consultant for the Philadelphia Phillies was literally thrown out of Philadelphia, from what all reports, literally, like, the people hated, thrown out. And the Red Sox, he's a Driveline disciple or employee, and the Red Sox decided that it would be a great idea to hire him as the hitting coordinator. Now they lose their shortstop, but the town, 3.5 hours south, spent some money this week. We picked up Aaron Judge and picked back up Tommy Canley. So I think the Yankees spent $385 million in guaranteed money last week, and well, you guys didn't. So, but like, this is the same thing. The argument when the Bruins sucked, right? Like, there's going to be 33,000 people in that place every day, regardless, because people are, and this what goes back. Are they fans? Are they pink hats? And nothing against women, but the whole thing, when the Red Sox started winning, are they diehard fans like Mike Ferry? No, they're just people who, they're not marketing to diehard fans. They're marketing to the one-offs, right? They have their season ticket base who are never going to leave, and then the rest are filled by corporate sponsorship seats, and then people who come, once or twice a year to a game. Doesn't matter to them, and not paying attention. Foul ball. They're looking all over the place, and that's maybe all Major League Baseball now.
That's why they had to put nets up, which is ridiculous. I mean, people survived for 100 years, literally, in that ballpark without nets, and they had to put it up. But no, I do know there's 2 friends of mine that are season ticket holders, and one of them already before yesterday did not re-up their season tickets, and this other guys, now it could be just reactionary, this all happened last night, but again, it's the idea of
someone's there to take that guy's spot, right? So
maybe but I have a feeling that it may change, and that's the thing, having living off your laurels and taken for granted. And that's, I guess, the way to encapsulate. That's the word I was looking for earlier, is that they're taking their fan base for granted. And I think that maybe it might have bit them this time. And so that's what I always tell people. I go, look, why do you get so involved with them? Just stop rooting, stop. Watch them on TV if you want, but stop buying T-shirts, stop going to games, stop paying stupid money for beer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a streak, right? They had this like long consecutive game streak, and I think that was broken like maybe a year or two ago. But still, they raise their ticket prices 15%, and rather than getting 33,000, get 30,000. They're still making more money than.
Yeah, and by the way, they're up to like 43 in that stadium now because they kept adding
with
seats.
all this,
Oh yeah,
with all this
yeah.
stuff,
They kept adding. And, I think what people might not recognize is that when a team is getting ready to sell, this is what they'll do. They clear the overhead, they clear the debt because a new owner,
especially long-term debt,
right, because the new owner might not have made the same choices financially. They maybe wouldn't have signed somebody to a 10-year deal or whatever. So you don't want to.
And my guess is they might even be negotiating with someone because as having sold the business, they will tell you.
That's right.
When you start to talk with people, they'll say, don't do anything that's going to have some sort of, long-term effect on the balance sheet 5-10 years from now. But maybe your starting shortstop is actually a commodity that bring people into the stands, but
it is, but
I don't know.
But
maybe
not.
You get rid of your first baseman who hit 50 home run. It's all. Yeah.
Well, you buy the Red Sox, you're not buying the current roster, right?
No.
I mean, because it's a long-term play and you're buying the brand, you're buying the property, you're buying the oldest stadium in baseball, et cetera. And, it's a destination. I mean, I think I read somewhere that they get more outside fans to that stadium than any other stadium in baseball and Wrigley's number 2. So, that's what you're buying. And then you build the team however you want it. That's so. My main message just is if you're a Red Sox fan, I know there's lots out there, even outside of Boston. If you're angry, if you're upset, that's my advice. Stop supporting them.
So looking at this from I don't know how long they've been there, 20 years? How long has the ownership been there?
20? Yeah, about that. Yeah, I think 2002 they bought, right? You
have to give them their props. I mean, they won 4 championships?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good.
That's 4 more than was won since 1918, right?
That's right. Yep.
So,
no, absolutely.
It's been a successful, they've done some controversial things like changing the name of streets and doing some kind of of course, then renaming it after a slave trader again, which is, but whatever, but they did win. No, they did.
And again, like I said, I don't mind what they're doing. It's their team. It's their business. But, stop with the charade. Stop, letting your fan base down. Stop pretending that you're going to do X, Y, and Z so you can get more money out of them for season tickets. I just think that that's not cool. You want to say that, hey, we're rebuilding. We might not be a contender for a couple of years while we rebuild the farm system, which is garbage anyway. I mean, with their budget, right, with the money that they have, you can buy a farm system. You can all of a sudden turn around and say, hey, you know what? We're gonna get rid of our top 4 guys. We're gonna trade them for minor league talent. But again, that's not the point. And they had, look, the guy they just didn't re-sign, he was homegrown. The new GM came in. He was 27, Xander Bogaerts, when this GM came in. Devers was 23. Mookie Betts was 27. These are all homegrown and they're all gone. So build the farm system for what I say. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
All right. So moving on. We cut some videos yesterday in my physical therapy / media editing studio that I went to. But we did 4 that I can remember off the top of my head. One is already up on our YouTube channel. That's about the proper initial building blocks of a batting stance. We talked about connecting with the ball with bent arms, Mike, and you can go into more of that. But the 2 that I talked about pitching and the ridiculous teachings of dragging your back foot or keeping your back foot anchored to the rubber, which makes 0 kinesiological sense to me why you'd want to anchor something to inhibit not only spinal rotation, forward progress, arm drag. And then we talked about base running and moving from our center, moving from our belly button. Those 4 will be up there. But
and also pronation, supination.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, pronation. That we did in the pitching video. But why don't we talk about what's up there? So we have a video and we talked about batting stance that you and I broke down. So why don't we talk about what's up there right now?
Sure. So, this is one of the foundational pieces. This is fits right in line with some of the stuff that we're working on right now. So when we started our season program, we have these kids that they don't understand posture, they don't understand athletic posture. If they do, their muscle memory is so ingrained that even if they know how to move what they're supposed to be positionally, they can't do it, right? So you get a lot of knees bending forward. And this thing, and Ben, I know you've seen it. I'm sure you probably saw it before, but you've definitely seen it since you've come here, is the bounce. They get in, they all want to bounce in the batter's box. And it drives
Their
me
eyes moving up and down all the time.
bananas. It drives me so crazy. And Kevin and I were talking yesterday. I'm like, I don't even know where that comes from. Like, I don't know, like, other than coaches saying, hey, now I do see it. I see, like, hey, you want to bend your knees. You want to bend your knees. And so it's almost like monkey see, monkey do. So they aren't aping that movement. I don't know, but it's anyway, it's infuriating. So getting them to understand what the posture is, that's sort of like number one. Like, okay, instead of bending your knees, get your hips back, sit your butt down, chest forward, that sort of thing. But where we are now in the training, the off season, is maintaining, and it's something I call like maintaining postural integrity. And all that means is that, when you go in step or you go through your load phase, that you keep that athletic posture, because a lot of kids will lose it. You might be able to get them into that position where their hips are back and they're sitting their butt down. But as soon as they go to step, you see the right knee bend forward. There's me bouncing, showing in the video. But the back knee comes forward, they start collapsing, they get on the outside part of the feet. And then when they land the front foot after the step, unathletic again. And it's more important to be, in fact, it's only important to be in an posturally athletic position at that point after you've taken your stride and you've loaded. Because as I said before, Kevin, I think we talked about in the video, stances are indeed like snowflakes, right? So you can have any stance as long as you get into an athletic position at load. And what you'll see from young players who haven't been trained yet, you'll see the opposite.
Absolutely. It's funny that you were talking about like the whole stance. I'm in now a Twitter argument with someone telling me that movement starts at the ground. Okay. Movement doesn't start at the ground. Okay. A force has to be applied through the legs for it to start, and the force starts at the spinal cord, right? That's where all movement starts. And we're talking about, what is deficient in what you were looking at is really that lumbopelvic juncture where the pelvis and the lumbar kind of come into play, into a connection. That glute, that upper hamstring and groin attached there. And in most adolescents is just, it's just not there. It's just not coordinated. It's just not strong. And of course, when we tell someone to go strengthen it, they immediately go to the squat rack, which ends up turning them into building bad habits or, unfortunately, sometimes injury.
Right. Yeah. And that's obviously the worst case scenario, right? Is they actually get injured from it. And by the way, it's not that hard, maybe not during that swing or whatever, but if Kevin would tell you, of course, if you're in an unathletic position, making athletic movements, it's just a matter of time before you hurt something, because something's compensating, something's moving out of sequence, and something at that point is going to give. Now, at the end of the day, our biggest thing is really to maximize a player's potential. And baseball is a skill sport. You can learn how to be good at this. Now, obviously, if you have two players, right, doing the exact same thing, they both have perfect posture, they both have perfect sequencing, they swing perfectly, and one has 100 pounds on the other, obviously that player is going to hit it harder and farther because he's stronger and bigger. But that only then should somebody actually be able to out hit you. There's no such thing as a natural power hitter or, any of that stuff that you hear. Like there's nothing natural to any of this other than it's how you're supposed to move. But unfortunately, and we've talked about this in the past, because we do so many things sitting down and posture is just not taught, we just lose that as we get a little bit older. And that's what we're dealing with. So a kid comes in the first time, all they know is what their little league coach or whatever coach they had before us told them to do. And I'm not saying this, to be controversial, but it's the truth. It's almost always wrong. And so that's why we have to spend so much time on getting them corrected.
Ben, you were not the
Yeah,
best
no, I was just gonna
proponent.
add like
Oh, go ahead.
no, sorry, I was just gonna add something real quick. It's just like the fact that like what we talk about in other podcasts is like it's the boring stuff that matters. So it's like all this posture stuff that we talk about, all the kids are always like irritated or they get bored really super fast, but it's like it's the little stuff that matters. So it's like if you're watching this at home, like the boring stuff is more important. You know what I mean? Like we got to build that. So that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely. You know what's funny, Ben? What's changed that a little bit, and I say a little bit because not everybody gets to use the technology all the time, but like a thing like Rapsodo, because if you get a kid who's say a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, and they're seeing, they know what their velo is, right? Taking a bunch of swings, and then they get this, they make that change, and it's literally overnight, right? Because once it finally clicks, boom, they see their number jump, and they go, oh, okay.
Like, oh yeah, that's why we were doing it.
That's why we're doing it, right? And then it makes sense because it sounds trivial when you go, hey, your knees are forward this far. They need to be back and your hips need to be back more. And you're like, come on, dude. I'm pretty much there. You give me a hard time. I can only imagine that's what's going through a kid's head sometimes, but it is that important. And it's hard to do. Like when a kid comes into our facility, even a 12-year-old, he's taken thousands and thousands of swings before we've ever met him. So it's going to take a little while. And of course, it's also going to feel a little bit uncomfortable or odd. One point I'll make about that is I've heard, I've seen instruction. I see the coach go, hey, do this or whatever. And they go, oh yeah, that felt good. That felt good. How? What do you mean? It shouldn't feel good. It should feel kind of awkward.
Yeah, if it's brand new, it shouldn't feel good. Like
shouldn't feel good.
Like you might like the result, but
right.
like your body movement patterning, like it shouldn't feel good.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And that's the idea, is to get it to the new normal. Right. So now if someone said, hey, bend your knees forward, that would feel weird. That's when you like it. Sort of you're finally gotten to that point.
Yeah. If I dislocate your shoulder, is that going to feel good?
Yeah, exactly.
That is not normal.
Yeah. Or even popping it back in where it's supposed to be. It's the right way. Does it feel good?
No.
Yeah. So that's mostly what we've been working on, Kevin, in the facility with us. We've actually started adding a moving target, so adding front toss, where I like front toss because it's not as boring to the kids. It feels more like a pitch. It feels more like actual hitting, but it's slow enough where they can actually focus on their swing rather than the baseball. And that's another really big tip for kids that are training. Off season, treat the baseball like a training aid. That's all it should be. It's just a training aid, right? I mean, the real way you really could get this down faster is by doing dry swings, because you're just focusing on how you're moving and what you feel move first and second and third, etc. Of course, kids aren't going to want to do that. They're going to want to hit a baseball. So front toss is really good for that, but the baseball is just a training aid. It's hard to stay focused when there's a ball in flight. Your brain wants to focus on the ball and just hitting that ball and lock eyes on the ball. So to work on your training to stay in that mindset of I'm focused on how I'm moving, looking at the ball is secondary. And if you can do that, and it's not easy, then you'll see results a lot faster.
I like that. So like I said, the other video we got into was something we kind of touch on. We'll get to the pitching later, but really moving from your center, right? Mm-hmm. The art of the stolen base has gone completely away. When you and I were growing up, Ricky Henderson would walk, steal first, steal second, steal second, steal third, and score on a ground ball. So, right, it'd be like 2 outs, and the A's and the Yankees would already be up 1-0 without a hit. Mm-hmm. And watching him move, you will see him literally turn his belly button towards second base, crossing his left foot over his right, and taking off. And Mike and I noticed yesterday too that while doing that, he also had the ability, as he's turning, to get his right leg back without taking like a negative step, that he was able to turn and support his right leg under his frame so that when he stepped with his left, he was also able to push off more with his right and propel him like no one other down to second base. And I have heard that Ricky's 60 time certainly wasn't anything to write home about, because he certainly didn't cover ground in the outfield like most out, but he had just an unbelievable technique of moving from his center to steal bases.
Yeah, I think part of that too is like another thing that made him special was, if you watch videos of him, his first step, and not just how fast his first step is, but how fast he takes the first step on the leg lift from the pitcher. He could recognize a move to the plate faster than anybody. Because every little thing adds up. And this is a fun little thing I like to think about. So, you might see coaches out there, third base box with a stopwatch. I always have mine. And your timing, you want to know how much time the pitcher takes to get to the plate, right? So come from the set, right? On a slide step, maybe he's 1 second or just under. Maybe on a leg lift, he's 1.5, 1.6, whatever that number might be. But you want to know that. You also want to know the catcher's pop time. And if that catcher, let's say, it's 13U, 14 baseball, it's a 2.5, despite some of these like PBR camps you see, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. But that's a whole other thing. But let's say a catcher's 2.5 to second base, and you have a pitcher who's 1.5 to the plate. How many seconds is that?
3.5, 4.
4. 3 times the charm, right?
Thanks, doctor.
So 1.5, 2.5, 3. Yes.
So
4 seconds.
4 seconds to the plate means that you should be able to steal on that guy pretty easily, because you should be able to get down to second base in under 4 seconds. You got a lead, right? Assuming you have a decent jump. It should at least at 4 seconds. Let's say I call it 4 even. So even if you have even versus even, it requires a perfect throw, a perfect tag to get that runner out. And you're probably not going to see that, especially in youth baseball. So anyway, so it becomes a math equation. So that's why every little thing matters, right? So if it takes me a half a second to recognize the pitcher's pitching and I take off, I got to be that much faster to make up for that half second. If I can recognize right away in a tenth of a second, I'm in a better shape. And Ricky was just amazing at that. But do you want to, I'll ask you, right? Because I'll tell you right now, Kevin, a lot of people will point to Ricky and they go, see, his technique was the drop step. And so that's the right leg going to second base. And they say that that's like the move. What do you say about that?
That is only half of the equation. So if you watch him, he turned his body, and as he is turning, right? So if I have, as he's turning, the right foot is coming back as a result of him turning his core absolutely as tight as he can. So it's almost like he could do like a left foot, right foot, or a right foot, left foot, almost at the exact same time. A drop step would mean that I'm like turning and actively putting my leg back, but his leg was coming behind him as a result of his unbelievable ability to turn his spine and get it towards second base. It's almost a passive movement. And then once his left foot hits the ground, boom, he's gone. I mean, you look at him, he's 2 or 3 strides before the catcher even feels the ball.
So isn't that step instinctive because your body needs to balance, and in order to balance in that position, you have to have weight under center mass to support, right?
100%. But people have seen that.
Yeah.
And now say, oh, you need to take you need to take a negative step to get back. No, it's not actually a negative step. It's a positive step, because yin and yang, it's a result of if I'm going to punch you, I'm punching with my left as my right hand draws back. Same thing. And that's exactly what he was doing. But now they're teaching to literally step backwards, which is not what Ricky Henderson was doing. It was a result of, now they're making an active movement, which is slowing people down. And that's why people don't steal bases. And I do not want to hear it's because it's not part of the game. If you get a guy on first base and he's at second base with no outs, people are going to want, any manager on the planet is going to want that.
I would be curious to see, pull up your videos of Ricky Henderson getting picked off and his dive back. Does he do a drop step back as he goes and dives back into first? Because wouldn't his trunk be turning the exact same? So wouldn't that, if he does a drop step on a pickoff, isn't that like prove your point perfectly? Like, sure. Like that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd have to find him diving back, but you'll see him. in any video, he's turning. And obviously, if I'm turning my body, right? So if just look at my arms, if I'm in a swivel chair, if I'm turning to the right, my left arm is going forward and my right arm is going back. So to keep my leg at the same spot that's like anchoring myself. That's the whole point of what I talked about pitching. If I'm turning towards home plate, why in God's name am I leaving my back foot anchored to the mound? It's going against my natural movement, which would be as I'm turning, even though I'm pitching, as I'm spinning off my left leg's force is going backwards, right? It's just planted in the ground as I'm turning around it. But if I was on ice, right, and I spun, my left leg would actually come backwards. That's movement. It's a circle. He's making a circle, but
right. Well, you're also starting wide when you're in that leadoff position too.
Absolutely.
Right? You're getting a lead. So this foot, this is my right foot and this is my left foot, and I turn, I can't do much. I got to get over this foot.
Right. That's exactly what he did. But he was able to do that, just like your Tulane player. What's his name? Jackson. Remember, I said there was a point where he was swinging, which he almost defied gravity. Right. He was turning so much. There was a point where if we stopped, like, oh my God, he's literally floating, right? Because he's transferring energy from his back foot to his front foot in the swing. And he's turning with such tightness and precision. There's a point, it might be 0.000. That's like, oh my God, he's literally floating. Meaning, in order to move, like I go back to the merry-go-round principle, we need a stable pillar to rotate around. But he was turning. Now, obviously, he generated the power, from his leg was planted, but his follow through that he was literally still turning without a planted leg to turn on. It was a split second where he was literally like suspended in the air. And that's what Ricky Henderson was able to do to get down to second base and third base.
And that's post contact. And I think part of it's probably momentum, right? It's like he had already generated so much force that it's harder to slow down. But, I look at a guy right over your left shoulder there on the screen, and you see that runner, and you can see his foot, at least half of it, is under his head. And that's his lead foot. And so you're gonna have to have that. And I think that's really important, because one thing I see that needs to be corrected in baseball is these leads with feet way too wide. Like way too wide. We're trying to run that way or go back this way. You don't need to be that wide, especially if the first move is going to bring 1 foot back anyway. Right. And so I think that's somewhere along the line, I think, because people started thinking about the actual mechanics and technique of first step, and things just got a little bit out of control. I think they're a little definitely.
Well, it's like we talk about everything. People see things, right? They'll see something. They'll see the end result, right? Oh, well, his foot's here. Oh, he must have done this, right? And they don't have enough, enough knowledge of the movement of how it actually got there. Did it get there actively, or did it get there as a result of, right? And then they'll start. Oh, well, Ricky Henderson did this. He took a active drop step.
Yeah.
Why in God's name would I ever want to step back to go forward, right? Same thing in the NFL. You watch these guys step backwards to go forward. What are you doing? You're already in an athletic position. You should be able to fly forward, grab the football, and run. But now we've gone from, the 80s when people were 12, 14, 1,600 yard rushers to now someone, hey, they rush for 1,000 yards. Yeah, we're playing 17 games. Okay. They rush for, they got 66 yards. Like they went 180 feet. Wow. Woo. That's a lot. And it's because by the time they get to the line of scrimmage, the hole's already closed, because you watch these guys, they're certainly back further, and then they're taking this like step back to go forward. I don't understand it. They should be ready to explode from the position they're already in.
Right. And some do, more of the old school style runners.
Yep.
We'll do that. I'm sending you a video because I forgot to do it pre-show. But this, by the way, when we get there, this may be one of the best.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So, then, the other video we broke a pitching video down. There's been a lot of talk through the ages that pitching is an unnatural movement. Throwing. Mike, you and I completely disagree with that fact. It's not unnatural at all. It's maybe how it's taught, but the
How do you think we
throwing-
took down mammoths to eat them
Right.
when we were,
right?
thousands of years ago?
So basically, in the video, we really talk about 3 moves that you have to master, which you're going to hear very familiar. Scapular depression, which means, the first thing we do was, we talked about taking the ball out of the glove. Okay, for some unknown reason, it's still being taught to have the hand in pronation. So when I take it out of the glove, I'm in this position. I can't throw from this position. Eventually my arm and forearm have to supinate to get into that, like throwing a pie. Like I know you said Mike Marshall used to teach that. So why not just start with my hand in the glove in that position? In suit, the ball's looking at me. So I take it out. I'm actually in a throwing position, not wrapped. Okay. When the arm is wrapped, it becomes late. It causes arm drag. It causes stress to your elbow. It causes shoulder issues. Every single Tommy John recipient surgery person at some point has an arm path issue. Just look at any other mechanics. You will see them wrapped. You will see them in an M. You'll see them in all kinds of positions, but you will see pronation. Okay. Pronation is an athletic killer. It's a killer in the golf swing. It's a killer in the tennis serve. It's a killer in the tennis forehand. It's a killer in the baseball swing. It's a killer pitching, right? Because when we pronate, it causes upper trap engagement, and we do not want upper trap engagement. That causes shoulder impingement. That causes thoracic outlet syndrome. That causes all bad things. No, upper trap engagement doesn't cause anything good unless, Ben Bills, you're on the beach. Okay. You want traps that come off your ears. Okay. But nothing good. So we talked about that.
Chris Benoit.
Yes. Right. So we should have our trap should be relaxed and in scapular depression. And then we really talked about things we talk of. It's, you pick your leg up, you're in a one-legged squat, right? And then you've got to move as your front foot's planted, you've got to turn your belly button as tight as you can in a circular motion to bring your arm through, and your arm and back leg should be married. They should come through at the exact same time. Leaving your leg to the rubber or on the ground or dragging like some people will. Why, if I'm trying to go fast, am I dragging anything? That makes no sense to me. And it's not been proved to me that it helps. It just causes, from what I can see, arm drag and injury and loss of velocity. So that's what we went over.
I want to stay on the arm thing for a second, because I think this is important, because everybody who's ever been taught to throw, including myself, I'm sure Ben was, I'm sure even you, Kevin, was all taught this. Right. So, so one thing is, I just, with this, as this turn happens, I mean, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a physical therapist, but I mean, I know that there are ligaments in there, right? And I know that you're at the rotator cuff, you have the supraspinatus in this area, and then you have the infraspinatus, and those must be twisting as that arm's turning violently and quickly, right? And so I guess I'd really like to know, and I would ask this sincerely. I would love to know, for someone to come on or email us, whatever, why are we still doing this? Like, what's the benefit? I'm not saying why sarcastic. I'm saying why.
No,
why is
I agree.
I'd love to understand what the advantage, like what's the advantage, even performance, even if it's at the risk of injury. So yeah, maybe a little bit more injurious, but you're going to get more velocity, whatever. I'd love to hear it. I haven't heard anything. And I don't know that there is an answer, but I would, because assuming that we're not going to get any of that, I think collectively as a sport, we just need to stop and just really start and go back to Mike Marshall is the first time I had ever seen it, and it made complete sense to me. The other thing you'll notice, by the way, if you try this as a player, or if you're coach, you try this with one of your players, is when you have the player throw the ball like a pie. Once we get to here, now if I'm here, I can all arm continue on, but if I'm in supination like this, and I get to here, I can't, my arm doesn't want to go. I almost have to turn my hip to bring it. And so it's going to make you use more of your body, more of your core to actually make that throw. I just think it's a no-brainer. It's one of those things that's a no-brainer. So it's like another example, Kevin, we didn't do a video on this just yet, right? But I see coaches still teaching a field of ground ball and pull it into the stomach. Why? There's no need. Once it hits your glove, that ball should had all forward motion should cease. The next direction that ball moves in is towards the bag that it's going to go to, right? And by the way, all
100%.
errors, you see all the errors happen off the toe of the glove that way. So,
Right.
but again, still out there for some
You know,
reason.
and I go back to, you know, you've got to go back to neurodevelopment, right? You've got to go back to when we're first learning how to move, right? You watch a toddler, perfect
Yep.
squat, right? Obviously they walk a little like they're falling over a little bit, but their squat, their movements on 2 feet are phenomenal. Their squat, diaper to heels every single time. And when they pick up a ball to throw, never once do they wrap it, get into an M, get into some inverted W. They pick it up like a piece of pie and fling it. And then they're taught to take it out of their glove and wrap it. I mean, just take your hands and just turn your palms down and just hold it there. It's uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
why would you ever want to do something athletically from a position that's uncomfortable to start with?
Well,
Doesn't make sense.
you know what's interesting too, and I don't know that this is all pitchers or only pitchers, but one thing I have noticed watching guys who have pitched for their whole life for a long time, they walk with their palm facing backwards. Like not like this, but I'm
Really?
so I can
Yeah,
show put my hands
yeah.
in the screen in
Yeah.
the shot, right? Instead of this.
Right.
And it's really interesting if you pay attention. I bet you see a lot of that. And what's interesting about what you're talking about with the supination versus pronation is, I think you told me a while ago, like when you look at the picture, like in an anatomy class or science class, the anatomical human is always with their palms forward. And I thought
Yep.
that was interesting.
Yeah, because it just is. I could talk about soup to nuts, you know, like supination here and pronation is not. I mean, you'll see it. I'm just turning my forearms, you'll see me shrug.
Yeah,
It's just,
you'll see the shoulder
you
drop.
just have got to get out of that position. It serves no purpose. So even if we just invented fire, go with the fire, because the other position, here's what we know for a fact. Whatever's being taught out there isn't working.
Yeah.
Right. And the injury rate is through the roof. Right. It's just not working. And not only is the injury rate through the roof, the performance sucks. Okay. Yeah. He throws 102 miles an hour. He was 8-9 last year. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. A lot of strikeouts. Okay. But didn't win any games. I mean, like, why are these people not winning games? Like, it's just because the performance of pitching is terrible. Pitching is gone. There's no pitchers. There's throwers.
Mhm.
There's
Yep.
throwers. There's very few pitchers anymore. I just hope now that the Yankees have signed Judge, that between him and Stan, they can hit more home runs than Garrett Cole gives up. Right? Because
Ooh, I wouldn't bank on that one.
yeah, because he gave up 39 last year. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to do that.
Will
So-
Stanton play over or under 60 games next season?
Dude, hey, listen, I talked about this. You got to give that guy his props, man. He played a lot of games last year. He played in the outfield, and he played in the outfield to play. And if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have won any games in the playoffs the last 2 years.
It's a really good way of dodging the question.
He will play 120 games minimum.
120 games. All right.
Wow.
Yes,
That's bold.
yes.
I mean, you have a good point about the playoffs, because those 62 home runs in the regular season didn't turn into much in the playoffs there for Aaron.
They haven't turned into the playoffs in 3 appearances.
Yeah,
Nope.
yep.
Yep. So
All right,
All right.
we got a video we want to watch.
let me cue. I've if people have seen my face, I've looked at it already, and I'm in horror. But let me see if I can.
It's
So, Mike,
amazing.
why don't you set this up while I try to get?
I'll try. I don't even know what I'm looking at, but so I'm guessing this is. In fact, I'm not guessing anymore because I just saw the name of the guy who posted it, so I know that this is what is it, like snap and flip or whatever they call it, right?
Yeah. So this is a guy on a tee.
This looks like an SNL skit. Like this looks
Yeah.
like this is a joke.
So he bends over. So he's in a batting stance. He's choked down to the top of the tape on the bat. One
Yep.
hand's actually above the tape. He bends down at the waist,
all the way
down,
look
and
behind the
then
ball.
turns and hits the ball with the butt of the bat. The top of the hand. I don't know what you even call that part of the bat.
No.
The knob.
And then the top of the knob, and then follows through after he does it. He then finishes his swing.
And it's a completely and entirely vertical swing. I mean, almost entirely. So if you're looking at a clock, this is like
This is the worst thing.
this is
I've
like
ever seen.
11:20, right? 11:20 AM or PM, take your pick. All right. So that's the path of the bat. So but the funniest thing is that he's literally bending over all the way so that his eyes, and if you can imagine watching a hitter from behind home plate, from like where the umpire would be, he's bending over at the waist until his head, you can't see the ball. His head's obstructed by the ball. He's bending over that far. Now, of course, one of the main things with hitting is you do not want to move your head. If you go and look, and don't take my word for it, go look at videos of big league hitters. And if you see a video of them hitting and you block their body with your hand, you won't be able to tell what stage of the swing they're in because their head is frozen. It's not moving. And the easiest way to try to relate to why they do that is if you're reading a book, if I'm holding the book for you to read here, because you're starting straight up, and then all of a sudden you go like that, I don't think you're gonna be able to continue reading that book very well, or that page, or whatever it is. But they're intentionally doing in this video, and they're intentionally doing it like I don't even know what to say, like dramatically. But yeah, this may be the best. Why would you do that?
1,303 likes.
Bending over at the waist.
303 likes, and actually, if you look, the last comment here is by former Yankee and professional baseball player Cameron Maben, who said, "Please, I hope no one is doing this drill. You all got to stop with damn hitting gimmicks." This is like, I don't even.
Look at, but you know what? Can I say something? I don't mean to cut you off, but this is exactly what we talk about. This is why this podcast exists. This is what happens. So you take one philosophy, right? And you know my idea on philosophy. You hear the word philosophy, run away, right? But if you take one philosophy and it gets a little attention and it's not good enough, it has to get wackier and wackier and because people have to go, oh yeah, you think that? Well, have you ever tried it this way? Have you ever tried bending completely at your waist and not even hitting the ball with the barrel at all? In fact, don't even hit it with the bat. Hit it with the very bottom part of the knob. It's just, it has to keep getting weirder and weirder just for views. Like, there you go. Like,
now,
oh yeah, have you ever hit with a barrel?
I know we don't like to talk basketball on this show. All right, maybe a little bit, but here we have a young man who is trying out for the Harlem Globetrotters. Okay, that is obvious because he's in the batter's box holding a janitor's trash barrel, and he is throwing it towards the pitcher, which is very similar to the move that the Globetrotters make when they throw the confetti into the stands, which somehow, if they switch the bucket, if you've ever seen the gimmick, actually is water and hits the player and the head of the Globetrotters at the time with the water. Yeah. So that's actually what this drill is. This has nothing to do with baseball, Michael.
I have, again,
but it has 9,000 views.
Right. And look, there's at one point he turns and he looks, look at his face. Is he like, he's probably going, what did I just do? What? All right, I did it. I caught the ball at the barrel and it bounced off the bottom. And now what?
I didn't even see that. There's a ball being thrown. Yes. Or is a ball in it or is it being thrown?
I think it's being thrown. He's catching it in the barrel.
Oh my God.
Now we all know the bottom of those barrels. So if like it doesn't hit the sides and hits the bottom, it's going to boing. It's going to bounce right back out. I don't know if that's the point. I don't know, but it's just lunacy. It's lunacy. Like, ugh.
And here's what I don't understand.
How do they have so many views? I'm sorry. How do they have so many views? This is the internet era, folks. You can look it up and go, hey, let me see what hitter hits like that.
What I don't understand, I guess, is why is it baseball? Like, you don't see this lunacy in basketball, right? You don't see this lunacy in football instruction or golf. Like, of all the gimmicks, I would think golf would have, they got this training aid and this training aid, but you go online, dude, and there's sound instruction. There's, there's but you go online for baseball, dude, you get what? I'd say, what's that other sport? Oh yeah, soccer. There's no instruction, like how to kick ball in goal. Zero. There's no videos on that, obviously. So sorry, Ben, that we can't actually kick ball into goal.
No.
But teams that have countries that come from countries without running water or medicine seem to beat us, but that's beside the point. But I don't understand why, Mike. Why do you think it's baseball that has all of these gimmicks?
Here's my theory. Okay, It's a skill driven sport, right? Basketball is not a skill driven. I mean, you have to have skill to know how to dribble, but it's not mechanically skill driven, right? So, I grew up in the city, and all you need to do is like get a basketball from somewhere.
Run hard and play hard. Yeah.
I would dribble
yes.
down to the store. Like my parents would send me to the store. I'd dribble down right-handed, carry the bags, dribble back left-handed. That's how you learn, right? So it's mechanically driven. And like golf. So you say, well, golf is like that. Golf is too professional. You got people who they're not going to buy this crap so easily, right? But with baseball, and it's mostly kids, and it's dads who probably didn't play anything, and they go, oh, I guess this is what you do. This
is how we do it.
That's my guess. I don't know, but it's got to stop. I mean, and there are some people out there really trying to make it to stop, and some of them are going a little too far. Where thinking like instruction at all is like bad. You need it. Most kids need it. But there's definitely a line, and people have here's the line, right? And people have like gone way over here.
It's insane.
Yeah. BANES.
All right. Sounds good. Well, hey, again, thanks for listening. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, you can always info. You can always email the show at info@proveitlive.com. And we will see you.